Discover the amazing, heartwarming love story that changed lives for 100,000 people forever. In the heart of a once thriving Midwestern town, Emily fought like a lioness every day. At 30, she juggled 2 jobs, tempered with the sweet chaos that was her 6-year-old son, Jake. With bright eyes, she infused warmth and laughter into their humble home, as he scampered through the living room, a whirl of energy and mischief. Yet, behind that radiant smile was the weight of a world that had scarred her from an early age. Orphaned young, her spirit had been chipped but never broken, each job at the diner and night spent cleaning houses chipping away at a facade that, for all its strength, trembled under the pressures of survival. She stood in the diner one Thursday morning, the bell above the door chiming as customers came in, taking in the sights of faded walls and lingering scents of fresh coffee. "How you doin', Jake?" she called out, trying to mask her exhaustion with a smile, all the while glancing at the empty storefronts that lined the main street, whispering stories of forgotten dreams. But life held surprises. Tom, a disillusioned veteran in his late 40s, arrived in town with haunting memories swirling in his mind. He wandered through the dilapidated streets searching for peace, a worthy mission that felt like slipping through the cracks of despair. It wasn't long before their paths crossed, across the diner counter one day, an exchange blossoming into shared glances and heartfelt conversations under the dim lights of the cafe. As their connection deepened, sparks ignited over dreams for the town. "We can bring this place back," Tom said, fire in his voice, "with a festival, a gathering that reminds everyone of what we used to be." Emily felt hope ignite, a flickering flame defying the shadows, trading her worries for visions of laughter and joy echoing through the town square once more. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Together, Emily and Tom embarked on their mission, rallying the neighborhood, spreading flyers and excitement. Yet as they began to raise hope, a wall of doubt rose with a wealthy developer standing in the shadows, eyeing the town like a hawk searching for prey. With slick hair and sharp suits, he sought to impose a facade of modern luxury, a cold place devoid of heart and soul. "Why bother with old ghosts?" he scoffed, standing tall amongst newfound supporters eager for shiny new buildings. "Let us make this town profitable." Streets filled with whispers grew darker as friends questioned friends, loyalty flickering like a weak candle. Tom and Emily faced resistance, an uphill battle threatening to crush their spirits. In the midst of their struggle, a miscommunication warped their bond, throwing daggers of doubt into their hearts. As the festival loomed closer, Emily stood fragile, fighting the urge to retreat to the shadows that haunted her past. But just as darkness threatened to pull them apart, the developer's true motives came to light. Secrets revealed themselves like a storm breaking through clouds. Now united, Emily and Tom realized that they were not just fighting for their town, they were fighting for truth, for lives, for hope buried deep within this ravaged community. As tension built, all eyes turned toward Emily, Jake's tiny hand gripping her leg. Could she summon the courage to uplift her town? With emotions swelling like tides, the fate of their blossoming lives, and the town teetered precariously at the edge of a hopeful climax. Would they rise together or crumble under the very forces that sought to tear them apart? Emily stood at the center of the diner, her heart racing as she watched the door swing open. A chill clung to the air, but inside, the warmth of coffee and pastries filled her senses. Today felt different. A crowd had gathered outside, whispers rippling through the town. The festival was just days away, but their hopes weighed heavily. Tom entered moments later, his eyes scanning the room. He locked onto Emily, and for a second, the noise faded. They had shared so much, the laughter, the dreams, the uncertainty. Yet now, shadows loomed over their plans, and she couldn't escape the feeling that their connection was on shaky ground. "We need to reach out," he said, leaning over the counter. People are still afraid to join us. Afraid or undecided? Emily countered, her voice barely above a whisper. Tom frowned, his hands clenched in determination. We can't give up. Not now. As he spoke, Emily caught sight of the developer's tall figure through the window, flanked by others dressed in business suits. She felt a knot tighten in her stomach. They were everywhere, their influence already creeping into conversations like a slow poison. I won't let them take our dreams, she said, fighting her fear. The fire in her heart stirred again, even when doubt threatened the edges of her resolve. We just need to show them that this town matters. Tom nodded, his gaze firm. Let us hit the streets. We'll carry flyers, knock on doors, talk to everyone. We can still make a difference. With newfound determination, they set off into the crisp afternoon air, the light golden as the sun dipped lower. The streets felt alive with potential. Emily's hand brushed against Tom's, a fleeting touch, but it sent an electric spark through her. They were in this together, door after door, they encountered hesitant faces. Some were convinced by Tom's passionate words, while others lingered in their doubts. Emily felt exhausted, but she reminded herself of Jake's bright smile. They were fighting for him to a place where he could laugh and run free, where dreams wouldn't be smothered. It's a community, not just buildings, Emily said sharply to one neighbor, his eyes clouded with skepticism. We need to come together, not tear each other apart. But just as she felt the tide turning, a rumor swept through the gathered crowd, an announcement from the developer that a meeting would be held in the park that night. Everyone would be invited to share their thoughts, or more likely, to hear the architect's grand vision for the town. Tom squeezed her hand. This could either tear us apart or unite us, he murmured. Emily could sense the urgency sparking in the air, a fragile hope. They pushed through as people began to gather. The sun sank lower, casting long shadows that felt like ghosts of failures past, but Emily fought against the creeping darkness. What if we just keep pushing? She asked, looking into Tom's eyes, a mix of fear and yearning swirling inside her. What if we challenge him? An unexpected chuckle came from Tom. Let us do it. Let us not just sit and wait for a response. As night descended, they stood at the heart of the park, their hearts pounding with anticipation and fear. The developer's lights flicked on like stars, illuminating the space with an unsettling brightness. Emily took a breath, glancing at Jake, who had walked up next to her, clutching his little superhero toy. His courage stirred something inside her, a force stronger than despair. Together, Tom said quietly. Together, Emily echoed, her spirit rising. Yet in that moment of unity, a flurry of uncertainty clawed at her heart. As they prepared to step forward, the crowd's mixed reactions loomed heavy. Would they accept the challenge? Would they face the man who threatened everything they loved? With a sudden rush, she realized this was just the beginning. In less than a heartbeat, everything they believed in hung in the balance. Would they forge a path to hope, or would fear shackle them again? The crowd mumbled, eyes shifting toward them as they prepared to speak. With her heart pounding, Emily whispered, "This is it." And within her, a new resolve blossomed, igniting the spark of change, but then she saw the developer's cold smile, a flicker of something dangerous beneath that facade of confidence. Everything hinged on what they would say next. The developer's voice boomed through the park, cutting through the murmurs and lifting eyes to him like a magnet. Welcome, everyone. His grin was slick, rehearsed, exuding a confidence that felt like nails on a chalkboard. To Emily, she clenched her fists, trying to gather the strength to speak. Each heartbeat thudded in her ears, drowning out the sounds of the crowd. Around her, she could feel Tom's presence, a steadying force. They were partners in this. They needed to be united, to believe in something bigger than themselves. We've got some great things planned for this town, the developer continued. Modern buildings. Economic growth. New jobs for everyone. The crowd reacted with a mix of enthusiasm and skepticism, and that's when she felt the pull of the moment. People care about this town. Emily shouted, her voice surprising even herself. Heads turned, and she felt the weight of their gazes. This isn't just about brick and mortar. It's about the heart of our community. Tom stepped closer to her, nodding in encouragement, but the developer raised an eyebrow, his smile twitching momentarily. "And what do you suggest?" he said, feigning curiosity. "We keep your quaint little shops and buildings?" "Yes," Emily replied, emotions bubbling up as she saw her neighbors' faces, some intrigued, others indifferent. "We don't need another strip mall or luxury condos. We need a place where memories are made. Where kids can play freely, where festivals happen on every corner. This town is alive, and we want to keep it that way." A ripple of support stirred among the crowd, and she seized that moment, investing her heart into every word, determined to spark a flame. "When you come in with your plans, don't forget that we're the ones here, living our lives every day. This is our home." The developer opened his mouth to respond, but Tom stepped up beside her, his voice steady. "You might have money, but we have heart. We won't stay silent while our dreams are swept away by profit margins and corporate vision. We need a community, not just a development. Who else with us?" The hands in the crowd began to rise tentatively at first, then with gusto. Emily felt tears prick at her eyes, but she breathed through them. They were standing together now. Jake gripped her hand tightly, his little fingers warm against her palm, and she knew they couldn't stop now. Suddenly, the developer's facade cracked for a fraction of a second. His jaw tightened, and he glanced at his team as if gauging their reactions. It was palpable, that crack in his confident exterior. But he quickly recovered, crossing his arms. "Well, I admire your passion. But progress waits for no one. You'll see the benefits I bring." "Benefits for whom?" Emily retorted, her chest heaving with every breath. "We can't let you turn our town into just another business venture. If you want to work with us, we need to find a way that honors our community. We need to make this a place everyone can love." The tension in the air felt electric. Each face around her was filled with a mix of hope and uncertainty, their reactions hanging in the balance like a taut wire. Suddenly, someone in the crowd shouted, "We won't be pushed aside." Others echoed, voices rising with a fierce loyalty that filled the park with life. Emily's heart raced. Maybe they were finally finding their voice together. The developer's smile faltered again, those icy eyes narrowing. They locked onto Emily. The challenge was clear. "Let us see if your passion can hold ground against change." His voice dripped with mockery, but she wouldn't back down. Emily took a deep breath, glancing at Tom and Jake, courage flickering through her. They had built something together, and they wouldn't let it fall apart now. "Together," she repeated softly, feeling the warmth of hands linking together in solidarity. This was their moment to ignite a movement, something they all could fight for. They weren't just voices, they were a powerful chorus refusing to be silenced. But as the developer began to outline his plans again, promising riches, Emily's resolve wavered. Did they have the strength to resist the relentless tide of modernity? Would her heart be strong enough to lead the charge against the threat looming over their town? As the voices of uncertainty whispered again, cold and critical, one thought took root in Emily's mind. What would the next steps look like? And how could they ensure their message was heard amidst the noise? The air thickened with tension as she readied herself for a fight they couldn't afford to lose. Emily took another deep breath, grounding herself as she scanned the faces around her. Doubt crawled in, but she pushed it away. They were gathered here for something more than just a fight. They were here for love, the love of their town, their history, their stories. How could she communicate that power? The developer's voice continued to fill the air, but it felt distant now. Emily could see Jaden from the bakery, his brow furrowed in worry. Beside him stood Michelle, cradling her baby, eyes darting back and forth, searching for reassurance. The crowd was restless but unified in their uncertainty, and she knew that their collective love wasn't enough. They needed a plan. Enough! She shouted, her voice cutting through the developer's monologue. If we're going to change anything, we need to organize. We need meetings, a committee, something to show that we aren't just a bunch of people yelling in the wind. We have to plan. Tom's expression shifted from cautious to inspired. Emily's right, he added, stepping forward. Let us gather everyone who feels the way we do. We can hold community forums, write letters, maybe even start a petition. Cheers erupted from the crowd at Tom's suggestion. A swell of energy coursed through her. Yes, this was it. This was the beginning, but then, a voice rang out from the back. It was Margaret, the elderly librarian. How can we be sure we will be heard? They have the money and the connections. We're just ordinary folks. Emily felt her heart sink for a moment. Margaret was right. The disparity was immense. But before she could voice her thought, Tom was already at her side, reassuringly placing a hand on her shoulder. But they don't have what we have: community. Stories. Memories. Those connections give us strength. Taking a cue from Tom, Emily called for quiet, her eyes locking onto Margaret's. You've kept our history alive, Margaret. You understand more than anyone how important this town is. We need you. Your stories of the past are a rallying cry for the future. Margaret's eyes softened, a small smile creeping onto her lips. Maybe you're right, dear. But what if nobody listens? The question lingered, heavy in the air. Emily understood the fear. They weren't just facing a developer, they were battling indifference, a loss of connection, and the looming threat of change. Then we make them listen. She erupted, firing up the crowd once more. What if we share our stories in social media? What if we bring them to town hall meetings? A picture of us, our families, our businesses. We show everyone what we stand to lose. The crowd seemed to buzz with newfound vigor. Phones emerged, typing frantically, people snapped pictures of each other, capturing their shared spirit. Jake tugged on her sleeve, his bright eyes shining. Can I help? I want to show people our playground. That South my favorite place. Tears sprang to Emily's eyes as she looked down at her son. Yes, buddy. Let us make a video and show everyone how special it is. Together, Tom added once more, echoing their mantra. Slowly, the crowd joined in, their voices harmonizing with hers. Together. They started to chant, growing louder, and Emily felt the tremors of hope burgeoning in her chest. It wasn't just a rally, it was an awakening, the birth of something that could stand against opportunism. But as the crowd's energy swelled, the developer's team leaned closer together, whispering among themselves, their expressions hardening. Emily caught a glimpse of the developer, whose icy gaze shifted back to her, a storm brewing behind it. Fight all you want, he said finally, the mockery slipping back into his voice, but remember, the bigger the fight, the harder the fall. Emily's heart sank, the sting of his words cutting through the euphoria around her. Could they really keep this up? Would her heart be able to bear the weight of resistance? With resolve digging into the roots of her being, she clutched Jake's hand tighter. We'll fight, she declared, glaring back at the developer. For our home. For our memories. For each other. As the tension thickened, it left a volatile air hanging above them. Emily's heart raced with a mix of fear and hope. What would tomorrow bring? And could they truly stand together as one when faced with whatever challenges lay ahead? The dawn broke over the town like a fragile promise, the sky a canvas of soft pinks and oranges. But inside Emily's heart, storm clouds still churned. She sat at the kitchen table, a cup of coffee cooling in front of her, staring at her phone. A mix of excitement and trepidation filled the air. Today, the community meeting would take place. It was their chance to gather momentum, to rally together against the threat looming over them. Jake swung his legs beneath the chair, oblivious to the weight she carried. Can we go to the park today, Mom? After the meeting? He chirped, his innocent excitement an anchor to her swirling thoughts. Emily smiled but felt the heaviness tug at her throat. Of course, sweetheart. But remember, we have to show everyone why the park is special to us like you said yesterday. His eyes sparkled, and he nodded eagerly. She loved that spark but couldn't help the lingering doubt. Would their voices truly carry? Would they make a real impact? As they piled into the car, Emily glanced over at Jake, who clutched a bright red poster scribbled with crayon, "Save our park," in big letters. It hit her hard, the innocence of his words and the weight of their meaning. It was so much more than a park for them. It was where they had spent countless afternoons, where friendships had blossomed, and where their town's children had learned to play and grow. The community center was buzzing with energy when they arrived. Faces both familiar and new turned toward her, an unspoken unity binding them together. She felt hope simmering beneath the surface. "We're all in this together," she reminded herself, as people gathered in clusters, excited murmurs filling the air like buzzing bees. Tom stepped up to an old wooden podium, his presence a reminder of their earlier resolve. "Thanks for coming, everyone. Today is just the start. We need ideas, we need stories. But most importantly, we need to hear from each of you." His voice was firm, inspiring confidence. Emily took a deep breath, feeling an electric pulse in the room as people started to share. Stories flowed like rivers, tales of first bikes ridden in the park, of laughter echoing through the trees, of silent moments under the sunset that held the power of change. Each story built a tapestry of their collective memories, weaving tighter with every word spoken. After a few voices filled the air, it was Margaret's turn. The librarian, usually reserved, stood up slowly. "I remember a time when we all gathered for the summer reading program in that park. Children laughed, families came together. That's what makes us strong. We can't let that disappear." Her voice shook but resonated with heartfelt urgency. With each story, a seed of courage took root in Emily's heart, and she could almost feel the town coming alive around her. She realized then that they weren't just fighting for a park, they were fighting to preserve their identity, their very essence as a community. But just as she felt the swell of hope, Emily noticed shadows gathering outside the center window. The developers' team had arrived, a stark contrast to the warmth radiating from their gathering. Anxiety gripped her. Would they try to intimidate everyone? Would they threaten this newfound unity? As the meeting wrapped up, Emily spoke up, steeling her resolve. "We need to show our strength. Tomorrow, we'll march to the developer's office. We'll show them just how committed we are." A chorus of agreement followed, voices rising in a powerful wave. But amid the cheers, Emily's gaze flickered back to the shadows outside. Her heart raced as the developer's team exchanged glances, a smirk spreading across one of their faces. What would they do next? Suddenly, she felt the ground shift beneath them, and doubt whispered in her ear again. Could they really take on the giants of development? With determination etched on her face, Emily locked eyes with Jake, whose small hand squeezed hers tight. "Let's keep fighting," she murmured, half to herself, half to him. But as the crowd started to disperse, the unease grew. Would this be enough? And what would their fight bring to the surface? With questions swirling, Emily sensed that their greatest challenge was just beginning. The morning light spilled into Emily's bedroom, filtering softly through the curtains. Jake was still asleep, a gentle rise and fall of his small body under the blanket, but Emily lay wide awake, her mind racing. The meeting hadn't just shaken her anxiety, it threw focus on how much they stood to lose, and how far they were willing to go. As thoughts turned, she recalled Margaret's words, the urgency behind them. What if they lost that park? What would it mean for Jake, for all the kids who ran wild among those trees? Emily could picture them, laughing and chasing after one another, innocence stitched into every moment in that cherished space. The sun was higher now, spilling warmth over the floorboards, nudging Emily to rise. She stepped into the kitchen, brewed a fresh pot of coffee, the smell grounding her while she battled the jitters. There was still a lot to do, and they had to be prepared. Jake finally stumbled into the kitchen, rub of sleep still in his eyes. "Is it time to go to the park yet?" he asked, a hopeful grin already forming. Emily knelt beside him, brushing her fingers through his messy hair. "We have to plan our march first, buddy." At his cute yet disappointed frown, she quickly added, "And then we'll go to the park, I promise." With their breakfast done and Jake's poster now hanging on the fridge like a badge of honor, they headed out. The community center had transformed overnight, the air crackling with energy. Friends and neighbors buzzed around with coffee cups in hand, sharing notes, crafting signs, organizing details. Each face was etched with determination. Emily settled beside Tom, who was reviewing maps of the town. "It's happening fast," he said, glancing up to meet her gaze. "But if we're going to make a stand, we need more than just numbers, we need real stories. Every one of us has to be willing to speak out." That thought resonated deep within her. She envisioned the neighborhood filled with voices, joining together as one, a choir of unity echoing through the streets. As she dug through her own stories, the memories of laughter, the joy of picnics, and the simple moments of solitude amidst nature flooded her mind. Suddenly, it felt both personal and urgent. After plans settled, they gathered outside for their march, a throng of passionate faces. What began as a trickle of participants blossomed into a wave of supporters swept on by shared purpose. Emily felt her heart swell as she looked around. Each child holding a bright sign, every adult ready to fight, felt like unmistakable love for their community. Resilience folded into every crease. Jake grabbed her hand, his eyes alight with excitement. "Look, Mom. Everyone's here." "Yes, they are," she replied, squeezing his hand a little tighter. Together they joined the throng as they stepped towards their destination, chanting slogans that rang with passion. But as they marched, Emily noticed something unsettling. Their opponents had gathered too. She could see them in the distance, the developers' team standing tall and stoic, calculating. It was like a tense standoff playing out, and her heart sank. Would their courage be enough against the looming shadows of greed? The shouts grew louder but mingled with her fear. She could feel the anxiety encroaching. What if they were dismissed? What if they weren't taken seriously? But as she caught the sight of Jake holding his poster high above his head, she realized something. It wasn't just about saving a park, it was about igniting the heart of their town. Every shout, every chant emanating from her community might as well be a beacon of light through the darkness. "Emily!" Tom shouted, breaking through her thoughts. "Get ready. This is our moment." With that, the world around her snapped back into focus. Emily took a deep breath, stepping forward with renewed purpose, ready to face the looming shadows. Tomorrow, they would confront more than just a corporate threat. They would face fears, doubts, and maybe even a change that could shift everything they held dear. Would this act of defiance kindle a true hope? And as Jake's voice rang clear with the crowd around her, one question lingered in the air: was their spirit strong enough to bring about the change they desperately needed? The air was electric, thick with anticipation. Emily stood shoulder to shoulder with her neighbors, united under the banner of a cause that had ignited a spark in their sleepy town. She could feel the warmth of Jake's little body pressed close, his excitement radiating through her grasp. He waved his sign, "Save our park," as if it were a flag of hope. "Look at them, Emily," Tom said, his eyes wide with wonder as he scanned the crowd. "This is bigger than I thought it could be." She nodded, trying to tamp down the whirlwind of her emotions. The sheer force of their collective spirit surged within her. The rhythm of their chants melded into a heartbeat, a pulsing sign of life resisting encroachment. With every stride the group took, the familiarity of their block transformed into something larger, a movement, a living testament to community. But their opponents stood firm at the other end of the park, arms crossed and expressions unyielding. Shadows of doubt crept into Emily's thoughts again. What if the passion of her neighbors wasn't enough? What if they were dismissed like the whispers of the wind rustling through the trees? "Keep your chin up," Jake cheered, misinterpreting her moment of solitude. He tugged on her hand, his bright smile shining just like the sun overhead. "We're going to win." His optimism filled her with warmth and renewed determination. "Yes, we are." she exclaimed, wrapping her arm around him. She drew strength from the little boy by her side. If anything, this was for him. This was for all of the children who deserved a vibrant space to explore, create, and dream. As they approached the podium that had been hastily erected for speakers, Emily caught sight of familiar faces. Neighbors she had grown up with, friends from school, and families with whom she shared laughter in the park only a week ago, all gathered like a patchwork quilt infused with love. She could see Margaret whispering to a group of children, rallying their spirits as she waved enthusiastically. "Mom, they're excited." Jake's eyes sparkled as he motioned towards the children, clapping and laughing. This was their moment, a slice of joy surrounded by potential loss. A voice crackled over the loudspeaker, sizzling through the air, capturing attention. It was Tom, stepping forward with courage emanating from him. He began sharing stories, tales of children swinging, families gathering for picnics, and so many lives woven together by this beloved park. As his words flowed, Emily felt tears prick her eyes. Narrative threads connecting one after another painted a picture of poignant beauty and urgency that reverberated deep within her. The crowd erupted with cheers when Tom finished, the noise only rivaled by the distant echoes of their opposition. But in this moment, fears fell away, drowned out by hope and solidarity. "Emily, you're next," Tom called, smiling encouragingly. The crowd parted, anticipation heavy in the air. Emily felt her heart quicken, nerves gnawing at her resolve. She wasn't a public speaker. But then she glanced down at Jake, his innocent belief in her words flooding back her fire. She stepped up to the podium, feeling the sharp gaze of the people resting on her like a welcoming embrace. "Maybe it's not about statistics or strong arguments," she began, her voice quivering at first. "Maybe it's about heart. About remembering the laughter of children echoing through the trees and seeing parents smile as they watch their kids play." Every word poured out of her, fueled by the love in the crowd. She steadied her breath, finding the strength in the way their faces lit up with understanding. Wasn't this what community was about? Wasn't this why they had come together? As she spoke, Emily felt a change in the atmosphere, an awakening. She could sense the weight of their united hope pulsing beneath her words. Suddenly, they weren't just voices in the crowd, they were a living, breathing force, and just as she wrapped it up, a sudden loud crash shattered the moment. Emily's heart sank as she turned to see a massive vehicle approach, emblazoned with the developer's logo. It loomed ominously, like a monster baring its teeth. "What do we do now?" Jake whispered, his small voice echoing her own fear. Emily's heart raced, but she refused to let panic take hold. This was their fight, and they would face it together. "We stand strong," she replied, determination surging through her. "We fight for what we believe in." And as the machine rolled closer, she felt the pulse of possibility ripple through her veins. The moment of truth loomed near. Would they rise to the challenge? Would this band of neighbors become the change their community so desperately needed? One thing was certain: tomorrow would bring answers, and Emily was ready to face them head-on. The engine of the truck roared, drowning out the murmurs of the crowd as it trundled forward. Emily felt a surge of adrenaline rushing through her. The hope they had kindled was now threatened by this looming behemoth, and the air shifted from one of celebration to tension in an instant. "Mommy, I'm scared," Jake said, his voice trembling, and he tightened his grip on her hand. "I know, sweetheart," she replied, kneeling to look him in the eyes. "But we can't let fear stop us. Look around." She waved her arm, gesturing to the sea of faces beside her. "They are all here for the same reason. We're strong together." Jake's small face brightened just a little. "Together," he echoed, clutching his sign like a shield. As the truck came to a shuddering halt, the driver stepped out with a swagger that turned her stomach. He wore a suit that looked sharp enough to cut glass and a smirk that hinted at arrogance. Emily's heart sank further as she recognized him from the town hall meetings, the very man who had dismissed their concerns outright. Tom stepped forward, his demeanor shifting from hopeful to confrontational. "What do you want?" he demanded, voice steady despite the circumstances. Simple, the developer said, surveying the crowd with a dismissive wave of his hand. This park is prime real estate. We're paving paradise to build something that will bring jobs and revenue to your little town. The crowd erupted into an uproar, anger flaring between them like wildfire. Emily felt her pulse quicken. She looked down the line, where neighbors exchanged worried glances, unsure of how the next moment would unfold. But then she heard an echoing chant starting somewhere behind her. Save our park. Save our park. The voice of the people grew louder, and it surged forward, merging with Emily's heartbeat, igniting a flame inside her. It wasn't just about a park anymore, it was about their history, connection, and the future they wanted to build together. Listen! Emily shouted, raising her voice almost instinctively. We're not losing our space. We won't let you take what's ours. This park is where we live, where we love, where our children play. It's not just a piece of land, it's part of our lives. The crowd responded, hands raised in solidarity, echoing the passion threaded through her words. In that moment, they were no longer a collection of individuals but a fierce collective, a mighty wave ready to crash against the resistance. The developer seemed taken aback, jaw tightening as the realization of the unified force unfolded before him. You think shouting will change anything? He scoffed, regaining his composure. I can bring in the bulldozers tomorrow. Emily felt fear creep back in, but she swallowed it down. We'll fight you every step of the way, she declared, her words igniting a fire that shot through the crowd. No one will stand alone. Together, we'll stand and make our voices heard. Before the man could retort, a loud crash echoed again, this time closer, as more vehicles arrived, carrying cameras and reporters drawn by the commotion. Emily's heart raced. The media's presence could turn the tide in their favor, bringing their message to the broader world. Look! Jake shouted, pointing. They're coming to help us. Seeing the reporters sparked new energy in the group. People began to gather around the cameras, eager to speak, to share their stories. The chaos shifted, and Emily felt buoyed by their collective determination. They were ready to fight and to face the truth, whatever it might be, but as the crowd surged forward, fueled by adrenaline, she caught sight of the developer. His expression was darkening, the smirk fading from his face. He stepped back, addressing his team with a hurried series of whispered directives. Emily knew in her heart this was more than a simple protest, it was a battle for the soul of their community. As the universe of possibilities expanded in front of her, one thought lingered. They needed to bring even more people on board, outside the park, across the town. Tomorrow will change everything, she whispered to herself, heart pounding. But will we be ready for what it demands of us? And as the cameras flashed and voices rose, Emily felt the weight of their fight settle on her shoulders. She wasn't just an advocate, she was a mother, a neighbor, a fighter. And tomorrow's dawn would show them whether they had the strength to stand strong against what was threatening to take it all away. The sun hung low in the sky, casting an orange glow over the park as it prepared to yield to twilight. Emily felt the lingering warmth on her skin, but the chill of uncertainty danced along her spine. The energy from the rally was still crackling, but she knew they needed a concrete plan for tomorrow. Just shouting wouldn't be enough anymore. Emily. Tom's voice broke her thoughts as he approached, his brow furrowed. We need to get organized. It can't just be about passion, we need strategy. Emily nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility grow heavier. You're right. We need to mobilize. Let's call a meeting tonight, she suggested, her mind racing. The time was now to not just unite their voices but to forge a plan that could hold back the bulldozers. Let's spread the word. If we can gather more people, maybe we can show them that this isn't just a park, it's our community, our heart. She exclaimed, feeling the fire burn a little brighter in her chest. Jake tugged at her sleeve, and she knelt beside him. Are we going to lose the park, Mommy? His eyes were wide, filled with innocence and fear. No, honey, we're not, she promised, pulling him close. We're going to do everything we can to protect it. Remember what we talked about? Together, we're strong. Just then, Sam, a nearby neighbor, caught their attention. "I'm in, Emily. I'll spread the word on social media. We can do hashtags, post pictures. We need everyone to know this fight is happening." "Good idea." Tom chimed in. "Let's set up a Facebook event, invite everyone we know." The sound of determination echoed in the rustling leaves around them. It felt like they were generating momentum, like a small rock rolling down a hill into an avalanche of voices ready to stand up for their home. As the evening deepened, the park became a canvas of flickering lights from cell phones illuminating the determined faces around. Emily stood in the center of the gathering, her heart swelling with admiration for her neighbors. From the shy woman who rarely spoke at meetings to the boisterous young man who led chants at rallies, everyone had a role to play. "All right, everyone," she called, raising her voice above the murmur. "We meet here at dawn tomorrow. We'll display our signs again, but this time we'll have a plan. We'll divide into groups. Some will talk to the media, others will call local businesses for support. We need to show that our park isn't just a plot of land, it's a symbol of everything we believe in." Cheers erupted around her. Emily felt tears prick at her eyes. This was more than a battle for a park, it was a collective fight for identity, for love, for the future they all wanted to build together. As the group dispersed with renewed vigor, Jake dashed ahead to play with his friends, his laughter echoing against the trees. Emily watched the children run wild, and her heart swelled. This was what it was all about, their laughter, their joy. But her thoughts were interrupted as the developer's truck roared once more into view, headlights piercing through the dusk. The earlier bravado faded a bit, and she felt a ripple of fear pass through the crowd. "Let's not back down," Emily whispered to herself, drawing strength from the anticipation buzzing around her. Tomorrow would be a test of their resolve. Would they stand together, face their fears, and prove their love for their community? As she turned to leave, her thoughts spinning, one last unanswered question formed in her mind. Were they prepared for the challenges that awaited them, or would they crumble under the weight of opposition? The dawn broke over the park, casting a golden glow that danced through the trees and warmed Emily's heart. Last night's energy still flickered within her, but today felt different, charged with purpose, urgency weaving through every promise she'd made to herself and to Jake. They couldn't just fight for their park, they were fighting for their future. The community gathering, the air buzzed with excitement. Friends and neighbors arrived, sharing knowing glances and hushed conversations, their signs adorned with hand-drawn pictures and bold slogans. "Save our park. And our town, our future." Encircled them, colorful declarations of intent glistening in the sunlight. Emily felt a swell of pride as she scanned their faces, each one brimming with determination. Tom stood beside her, his expression steadfast. "Ready?" he asked, his blue eyes lit up with a heroic fire. She was. They all were. "Let's show them what community looks like," she exclaimed, heart racing in sync with the purpose uniting them. With Jake holding her hand, they stepped into the heart of the crowd, a wave of passionate voices thrummed around them. The plan was simple: divide into teams, each focusing on their unique strengths, speaking to media, gathering signatures, reaching out to local businesses, amplifying their message far and wide. Emily found herself speaking with reporters, her heart pounding as she explained the significance of the park. "This isn't just grass and trees," she stated earnestly, gripping her microphone. "This is where memories are forged, where kids play and families gather. This is our soul." She felt the weight of every word, echoing her neighbors' stories within her. "Beautifully said," the journalist replied, nodding. Just as she stepped back, the oppressive hum of engines cut through the ambient chatter. Glancing behind her, Emily saw the developer's South convoy entering the park, vehicles lined in ominous formation, a corporate blockade threatening to eclipse their light. Fear settled in her throat, but she lifted her chin defiantly. "Stand firm," she called out, allowing her voice to penetrate the growing tension. Her community rallied around her, a human barrier against the encroaching threat. As the developer strode forward, that same smirk plastered on his face, Emily could see the doubt lurking behind his eyes. He underestimated them, thought their hearts would wilt against the onslaught of power. You think mere words will stop my progress? He laughed, a hollow sound against the sea of resolute faces. We're not just words, Tom said, stepping forward. We're a community willing to fight. Together. The crowd erupted in agreement, hands raised high with signs waving like flags of defiance. A gust of wind brushed through them, blending their voices into a symphony of determination. The developer scoffed, but as Emily locked eyes with him, she sensed a shift. They were ready to stand strong against whatever he threw at them. We won't let you erase our heart for profit. She shouted, her conviction breaking through every crack of uncertainty. Then, in a move that felt as monumental as their dreams, the chants erupted again, louder this time, reverberating from the earth below. Save our park. Save our park. It engulfed them, it swelled. It pushed forward, toppling every ounce of intimidation he brought. With each chant, Emily could see the cracks forming. The developer's confidence faltered, shifting between his team. He could hear the collective heartbeat of their community, and it was strong, unstoppable. It was love. It was resilience. We'll fight until the last moment, she declared, igniting a new wave of energy. This is not just a park, it's the heart of every single soul here. Tomorrow, when the bulldozers arrive, let them find us standing tall, united. Someone shouted from the back, and it struck her like lightning. A newfound clarity washed over her. As the crowd surged forward, overwhelming the developer and his team with passion, Emily's heart soared. Jake squeezed her hand tighter, his eyes full of awe and hope. This was for him for all. The children running wild, for the laughter and dreams that lived in those trees. The developer stepped back, recognizing their resolve. We will reconsider your objections, he muttered weakly, his bravado lost, slipping away like sand through his fingers. The moment felt electric, their bond indelible. As the sun began to set, bathing the park in brilliant hues, laughter erupted from the crowd, a symphony of victory echoing through the trees. Emily looked down at Jake, who was grinning from ear to ear, the carefree joy of a child celebrating their triumph. This is your story, she whispered to him, kneeling, tears of joy streaming down her face. You are part of this change. You did it, Mommy. He beamed, jumping into her arms. In that moment, Emily knew this wasn't just about saving their park, it was about embracing their power, forging the future they wished to create together. As they celebrated, surrounded by friends and neighbors, Emily felt the warmth of their unity filling every corner of her heart. Together, they had transformed fear into fierce solidarity, a beacon of hope lighting the path ahead. They would move forward, together, ready to grow without fear of the past that had almost consumed them. With tomorrow upon them, one question lingered: how far would their love reach, united in purpose and community? And as they raised their voices high in laughter and resolve, Emily knew they deserved this fight. It was theirs to win, to build, to cherish. They would write the story of their town, together. Today had changed everything. Don't wait not even one more second to join the journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help our message reach those who need it most. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful transformation. True fans understand the importance of supporting this channel through these actions.